Before I call this meeting to order, Commissioner Pittman, would you mind praying with us?
Yes, ma'am. Let's pray. Almighty God, our Father, we thank you for this day and all your many blessings. Lord, we thank you for all the wonderful things in our lives, for we know that every good thing comes from you. But Lord, our hearts are heavy for those who are having difficulty right now, these winter storms we've had. I'm hearing some people still without power, and some of the roads are still kind of rough. We thank you for those who have been working so hard to get the roads open and the power lines going back again like they should. And Lord, we just pray that you will protect people who may have health problems, that this is making it particularly hard on them. And we just pray, Lord, that things will be back to normal soon. And we ask you, Lord, to help us to be a blessing to anybody we can. Lord, guide and direct us in this meeting, Lord, and all that we do. Help us to seek and to find what is right in your sight and do that above all things. We pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Pittman. And I'll call this meeting to order. I do need an approval of the agenda, including the changes on page 3. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, that carries 4-0. I do want to make mention that we do not have Commissioner Wortman here this evening. He is going to be watching online. So I'm very excited about the first part of our agenda tonight. So thankful to be able to have our legislators here with us. And so I do want to give a brief introduction. We have Senator Meismer, who was appointed in April of 25 and serves as the representative for Senate District 34. We have Grant Campbell, who is our House Representative for District 83. Jonathan Allman, who is our House Representative for District 73. And then also Brian Echeverria, who is our House Representative for District 82. Gentlemen, I appreciate you coming out tonight. We are grateful to have you here. Just to kind of give an update on what you guys have been working on at the state level, and then if we have any questions to ask you guys as well. So we will start this off with Chris Meismer. Senator Meismer, if you don't mind just introducing yourself and kind of giving an update.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a pleasure to be here this evening with the County Commission Board, Commissioners, Madam Chair. Thank you for this opportunity to come speak before you and let you know some of the things that we're working on in Raleigh. We've got a great delegation here from Cabarrus County. I serve in the North Carolina Senate, as you said, District 34. We have 3 phenomenal House members here, and we all work very well together. So as you said, I was appointed to the North Carolina Senate in April of 2025. And whenever I was appointed, I missed the deadline to be able to file any legislation. The deadline was the week before I was appointed. So there's not been any legislation that I have personally filed. However, I've been proud of the legislation that I've been able to work on through committees, having conversation with other members. There's been a lot of good things that's come out of this last long legislative session. And I'll touch on a few of those. I think one that really benefits the citizens of Cabarrus County is myself and our House delegation was able to secure funding for an additional DMV location here in Cabarrus County. There's been a backlog at DMV all around the state, especially everyone trying to get their real ID, but we were able to also change some of the procedures where some more renewals could be done online to alleviate some of the backlog. The second location is going to be very important for Cabarrus County. I've just organized a meeting earlier today, organized a meeting for later in the month with the North Carolina DMV Commissioner. He has confirmed that he's going to come to Cabarrus County, and I know a number of us will be involved in that meeting and discuss locations for the second DMV. So looking forward to that. We passed the RAINS Act which prevents departments and agencies at the state from implementing new rules and regulations without legislative oversight. This applies for businesses as well as local governments. So anytime a department or agency decides to implement a new rule or regulation that has a huge financial impact, it has to have legislative approval. So trying to look out for, really kind of unfunded mandates and anything that, costs jobs or the economy from being productive. We've also passed the DAVE Act, which is the Division of Accountability, Value, and Efficiency. And this is housed within the State Auditor's Office. And we're going to be receiving a number of reports from that division to see how we can create more efficiencies in our state government. And this will help, with these reports coming out, that's going to help with our budget to be able to realign our budget to accurately reflect where monies need to be spent or where we can actually save North Carolina taxpayer. We've also passed the Arenas Law, which basically keeps repeat and violent offenders from being released back on our streets. So, we've seen the incident here in Concord at the Concord tree lighting shooting there, and Arenas Law became very crucial in that, we didn't allow violent individuals back on our streets. I've been hearing success stories about this all around the state of North Carolina, and this is a way that we've worked on trying to make our communities safer. The delegation, the House delegation and myself, we had a meeting with our district attorney, with the sheriff, police chief of Concord, and police chief of Kannapolis to discuss, crime prevention in our area and how we can make Cabarrus County a safe place, or safer place to work and do business and live. So I don't want to take up all the time, but that's kind of the updates that I have at the moment. And
Thank you, Senator Meismer.
thank you.
Mr. Campbell, if you'd like to give an update and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I'm Grant Campbell. I'm the House Representative for District 83, which includes Northwest, Cabarrus, and Southern Rowan. It's been a busy time the past couple of months for me. When we adjourned in July, House leadership said to expect to possibly be appointed to one task force that could be meeting throughout that time, not in session. And my one task force has been the House Select Committee on Involuntary Commitment, and also the Property Tax Reform Task Force, and the Joint Oversight Committee on HHS, and the Joint Oversight Committee on Medicaid. Some of these meet at the same time. I've leaned on my fellow delegates that are on some of the same committees when I have to step out. I think the big thing, Senator Meismer mentioned Arenas Law. We did find in that law, which I was happy to support, we found a trouble spot in the involuntary commitment part of that law, and we were worried that if it was as is, that our emergency rooms could become repositories for people that had been deemed needing involuntary commitment, but there would be nowhere for them to go. They wouldn't be getting the treatment that they need there, and it was a safety issue for the emergency room staffs. That was kind of the genesis of the Involuntary Commitment Task Force. We were able to delay the involuntary commitment part of this until January of 2027 so we can get this right. We're going to hope to use that committee to kind of use it as leverage to address the inadequacies of inpatient psychiatric care currently in the state. I think that this law is a great idea, but if we don't have anywhere to send them, we're still going to have the public safety issue. The Joint Oversight Committee on HHS and as well as Medicaid, this has been an eye-opening experience for me. I'm going to be friendly here, but the amount of inefficiency and waste has been somewhat staggering with this. This has kind of coincided with, we're working on negotiating the Medicaid rebase funding, which is additional funding. And when they came to us, they said, we just have no room to improve spending from an efficiency or waste standpoint. We're kind of overturning a lot of, let's just call them opportunities where we might can change that. I mentioned the Medicaid rebates. We were able, the governor started some pretty substantial cuts to healthcare providers in October. We were finally, after he lost a couple of lawsuits, got him to reverse those. But we do have a timeline for that, because if we get to April, Medicaid is going to essentially be out of money. So we've got to find a way to do it, but we're not accepting the dollar amount that's just given to us. We're going to make them justify that as to what they need. In terms of legislation, obviously mine have been pretty big in the healthcare and the veterans areas. We were able to pass a bill that I drafted that expands in-state tuition for military veterans. It also allows them, if they are accepted to a UNC system college and they want to serve in the military, they can now defer that up to 5 years where their spot's held until they come back. Allows them time to accumulate a GI Bill. We were able to pass legislation to improve workforce paths to mental health care, substance abuse treatment. We passed interstate compact for both physicians and social workers, so out-of-state physicians and social workers can get a quicker time to be credentialed for that. Things that have went through the House that are now in conference committee to work on with the Senate is reform of prior authorization with health insurance companies, and also removing middlemen from prescription coverage as well. So it hasn't really been a slow out of session, but I think that we're doing legitimate work, and I appreciate you guys having us here today.
Thank you so much for those updates. Representative Almond.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I first wanted to say thank you to our DOT and City of Concord folks that helped get the roads clear so I could be here. I know some of them were kind of sketchy, but happy to be here with you all tonight. Just wrapped up our first year in Raleigh. I served on 5 committees while I was up there. Appropriations for HHS, election law and reform, regulatory reform, insurance committee, and Judiciary 3. So that, we've had a lot of great stuff. Like Senator Meismer said, we had the REINS Act come through, reg reform, which I think is going to be a very positive, give the accountability portion back to the General Assembly, so that folks aren't creating more burdensome regulations without any accountability, especially being unelected. Like Dr. Campbell said, there's been a lot of work that's happened since the budget that we passed with the House. I have since been appointed to Educational Services for Exceptional Children, the Advisory Committee on Cancer Coordination and Control, and serving with Representative Campbell and Echeverria on the property tax reform. So I know that that's something that the folks in our community are very concerned about. So we look forward to working with you all to make sure that we understand all the implications, on whatever ends up being decided. But I feel like it was a very successful first year. Me personally, I had 4 bills come through the House. We're still hoping that Senator Meismer can get some of those moving, but we have developed a really great relationship working with the Senate. I know sometimes looking from the outside in, it seems like there isn't a great relationship between the House and the Senate, but I think for our delegation, hopefully we can be a template for the rest of the state. So as far as legislation goes, very early on, putting forward bills like restoring down zoning to the county, trying to get a flex schedule for the Cabarrus County School Board so they can actually make the dates when they are in and out of school, was a part of a bill that would change the EC funding formula. Still hoping to get some action in committee on that. So like Senator Meismer said, after the Christmas tree lighting shooting, we had a local meeting with law enforcement, the district attorney, Sheriff Shaw, and really looking forward to ways that there's already some bills in the mix, but I think that's going to really help with the juvenile justice reform and really tighten up a safe community that we already have. The thing that I feel like been focused on outside of some of these immediate things that can really help our community is being a part of the Make America Healthy movement. If you don't know my story, I have twin boys that will be 8 and still mostly nonverbal. So as someone who's walked through that in our family and seeing how large that community is in our community, I think that it's one of the most important things that we can focus on. Being on appropriations for HHS, the largest line item in the state budget is actually Health and Human Services when you put the federal dollars in. So, I mean, in my mind, if we could get 25% of those people healthy that need those dollars, what we could do with that money in other places. So it's really great to be representing the people of District 73, and I love the team that we have working together. So I look forward to continuing building relationships with you guys and up in Raleigh as well.
Thank you so much for that. And Representative Echeverria, we're so happy you could join us.
Thank you for having me. Number one, these guys are amazing. I mean, when I think about the leadership in the House, how they've been able to bring us along, how they were able to onboard Senator Meismer in the General Assembly also, they've hit on so much from the REINS Act. Obviously, Dr. Campbell gets in the weeds with some very important things in the medical system. Jonathan Allman doing amazing work, helping us to be healthier. So there's not a lot for me to update you on in addition to that. I'll just give you a little more on the property tax side because, you know, the North Carolina is at a crossroads, Madam Chair, and not an abstract or political one that is impacting our families and potentially our future. We feel it when we go to the mailbox for a tax bill, and I'm not talking about Cabarrus County, I'm talking about the state. We feel it when we go to the pharmacy to fulfill a prescription. We're feeling it everywhere. And so it's an honor to represent District 82 at this point in time because we're not always at a crossroads. You know, we hit these crossroads and then we take that street for a while and then we hit another one. And here we are. So the Property Tax Committee is actually it's very practical, the discussion. It's, can we fix what's broken without breaking what's good? Can we do that and all of us remain free? And I think the answer is yes. I think the answer is we have to, because there's a future. The last thing we want is what typically happens nationwide, is to tell our North Carolina residents that they'll get used to it. You know, when tax bills across the state outpace paychecks, families are impacted. They have to cut back in different ways. So we realize that there are services, essential services, that have to be taken care of, that are part of what makes our life our life. Now, what's interesting in this update here is being the District 82 representative, you could think that I'm talking about Cabarrus County or Harrisburg, except this is statewide. We're actually fantastic in North Carolina unless we don't make a change, because people are hurting. Our elderly are hurting, our 100% disabled veterans, and I'm only talking about property taxes, they're hurting, and we have to figure out a way to fix what is broken and keep and not break what is good. And I think that we're going to be able to do that. You know, we're talking levy limits, we're talking what happens in a revaluation year. They're visiting the circuit breakers, they're visiting the exemptions for the elderly and for the veterans. Everything is on the table for discussion. What has not been discussed, to assure this, my people, okay? Because, you know, it's interesting, people talk about rollbacks. I live here. So the guarantee is that all of us are selfish enough not to make life worse for ourselves. And I think that we can be assured that no one is discussing cutting services, rolling back services, and that sort of thing. All of these men and women in Raleigh are actually subject to the laws that are passed. And for me, it's unique because I'm not insulated by poverty or wealth. Everything that happens in Raleigh can access my home and the future of my family. So I'm committed to doing what is right, and I'm committed to making sure that our community prospers. So I look forward to this discussion. I'm grateful.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to open it up the floor to our commissioners to ask you guys any questions that they have. So Commissioner Pittman, would you like to start?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Campbell, you mentioned about the involuntary commitments and need for mental health services that is not adequate right now. One of the things that occurs to me is that so many facilities were shut down some time back. When they had shut down Dorothea Dix, I tried as hard as I could to get them to open it back up, do whatever updating you need to do, but get it going for its original purpose again. And instead, they turned it into a park. And you better believe I voted no on that one. What do you see as a possibility we can kind of restore some of those services that we've lost?
No, it's a good point. I think we got two problems. I think one you already touched on is the loss of inpatient facilities that we had. So if you look at the capacity 15 years ago to now, it's actually less despite our population growth and the increased demand for inpatient care. So there's a bed issue, but there's another issue that we've got to address as well. We have an entire wing at the Butner facility that's built, furnished, has everything it needs, but it's closed because they don't have the staff to staff it. So let me take that in two parts. So let's talk about the facility issue as well. I agree with you. I think unfortunately we're not going to be able to crank back the clock to reclaim some of those. And from my standpoint, I think the quickest and probably easiest way to do this would be public-private partnerships. Look at some of the existing facilities, even if they're run by non-state entities, and identify the ones that are doing it right and saying, what's the impediment to you expanding? How can we help with that? But you've got to do it in a proper way. Look, I'm an employee of a healthcare company, but it seems like no one is in Raleigh more with their hands out than some of these healthcare companies. So it's one of those, if we can be as a state a seeding fund to get them to expand, we can do that. We need to look at ways to make sure that the reimbursement for mental health care is meeting the expenses. And then the workforce part of this, this is where the community college system is going to come in. This is where medical and nursing schools are going to come in. I think we've able to start some pilot programs, and then we've also been able to expand the supply of certain mental health care and substance abuse workers. But if we just focus on the beds, we're not going to get there because we're not going to have the staff. So there's got to be a two-pronged approach for it. I wish we hadn't sacrificed some of that capacity that you're talking about. As I'm sliding in, as I say, well, I'm going to see what we have and what's the quickest way to expand it. And I think a lot of that's going to be public-private partnerships.
Well, I appreciate you on that. Just as an example, I want to make sure whether my perception is correct. My perception is that a lot of our homeless problem has been exacerbated by not having those facilities. I mean, I can give you one example. When I was pastor at McKinnon Presbyterian Church, the previous pastor told me about a lady who would come by, leave her duffel bag on the screen porch at the manse, and not to worry about it, just let her do it. And I found out later the lady was very wealthy, had a wonderful house, and her kids were really concerned because she wouldn't stay there. She was out on the streets when she didn't have to be. Mm-hmm. That, to me, is a mental problem, and just an example of what we need to deal with. So I appreciate your whatever you can do to try to deal with it.
You're 100% correct. If you look at it, if you parse out the homeless population compared to the general population, if you take that population and look to see if they have either a substance abuse issue or a mental health diagnosis, you're approaching over 80%. If it's one or the other, sometimes both. So we've known each other for a while. I'm an upstream solution guy to try to identify, okay, what's the most effective way to address this? And some of that's not going to be, okay, let's not look at expanding homeless shelters right now. Let's look at ways to prevent homelessness. And you're 100% right.
Okay, thank you. One more thing, if I may. Representative Echeverria, I appreciate work y'all are trying to do on the property tax situation. When is that next meeting? Is it February 18th? I think that's what I was told.
That is February 18th.
Okay, and do you know for sure if they're going to allow public comment? Because I want to be there if they do.
I will find out if they're going to. It's a time issue. We're going through an education process. No one wants to mess this up. So we're getting educated from the A's to the Z's. We're getting different perspectives. So far, there has not been a time for public comment, but as soon as they forecast that, I will be sure to let you know.
I appreciate that, and I will say, I probably shouldn't, I might get in trouble, but that's never stopped me before. I will say, I think y'all are having much better time trying to do these things under Destin Hall than you would have under Tim Moore. Thank you.
Commissioner Jones, did you have any questions?
I have no questions, but thank y'all for coming.
Commissioner Patrick?
I do. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. It's an honor. I owe you an apology first, I suppose, because I sent you an email with a whole litany of questions at like 11 o'clock this morning, so sorry. I'll skip the first three because those are really about school funding. I've been having some conversations with Representative Echeverria, and hopefully you guys can get back to me on those. The fourth one I sent, just a shameless ask for money for where I live. Harrisburg Library, the last time I checked, was the most trafficked library in Cabarrus County. I don't know if that's changed since Afton is open, but it was that way for a very long time. And we're in one of the oldest facilities. And of course, what has tended to happen in the past is that Cabarrus County has built libraries and active living centers as sort of combo units. But Harrisburg, the YMCA just built a brand-new facility in Harrisburg, and so we really don't necessarily need that component of it. So shameless ask if there's a way in maybe the next budget or this budget, if we could get some funding for a library, perhaps putting it in town center. I've talked to some of the town leaders, and they've also expressed an interest in helping to fund it. So if, kind of the three groups, potentially county, municipality, maybe state, could help fund that much-needed facility, I'd appreciate it very much, and I'm sure Harrisburg would as well.
One thing I'll say before, I'm going to hand over to Senator Meeser, but I would not say shameless ask. I would say, local advocacy or something like that. It sounds much better. I'll defer to guys that cover Harrisburg, but I just want to say never be embarrassed about advocating for your community.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's, we can certainly have those discussions about, a partnership between the state, county, and the town of Harrisburg is interested in being a part of that. That'd be great, and as Representative Campbell said, don't ever be afraid to ask, because you don't know till you ask. I know the second entrance to Franklin Park has been a priority for this board, and I know we had discussions about that when I was still on this board, and certainly been having a lot of conversations at the state to get that accomplished through the budget, or hopefully maybe sooner without the budget process, because I know that is a critical need here in Cabarrus County. I mean, it's a safety issue, and we've discussed that and talked about it many times, but I do want you to know that we have been having a lot of conversations about that. It hopefully will produce results on that sooner rather than later.
And I would say, I'm in Harrisburg. I love our library. I actually frequent it quite a few times a year. I don't think anything's wrong with the building. I think it's amazing. But I do want to manage expectations because, for years we had COVID money. And I mean, it was throw the shot behind your back and you can get funding on anything from about 2020 until last year. So now we're facing very real consequences for that. The inflation has decimated the projections for the state budget. So if it was up to me, I immediately say yes. However, to manage that, I think we have to acknowledge that North Carolina is facing some real fiscal challenges because of inflation. And so, yeah, I say yes, but I can't say yes. I will advocate for that because I like hometown wins, and I'm Team Cabarrus, Team Harrisburg. And But we do have to, we have real challenges with the budget. And I don't know that we're gonna have the kind of party that we've had for the last 4 years in terms of spending. So let's be honest with the community about that also. Without the federal budget and a pandemic, we probably not gonna see that kind of money for a long, long, long time.
While we're on, I think Representative Campbell called it local advocacy. You talked about, how you had the beds but not the workforce, and of course the community college system, how strong it is at, training people to enter the workforce, especially in life sciences, nursing fields, advanced manufacturing, tech, skilled trades. That's another area that we could certainly use some help funding is the Rowan Cabarrus Community College. They've got they've been wanting to build this very large facility for quite some time. It's a real tough stretch, as you mentioned, Representative Echeverria, to get that funding in place. But anything you can help with that, we'd really appreciate that as well.
I've got to brag for a moment. In terms of the workforce development, especially, I think that the pipeline for the most rapid response and the most effective way to be agile for workforce demands is the community college system. And we've got a framework in place to address this, and it's called Propel NC. I always tell people I will put my biases out there from the start. I helped write Propel NC in my previous life as vice chairman of the State Board of Community Colleges. But one of the tough things that community colleges have had is a lot of the funding model is based on what's called FTE, full-time equivalent students. That works fairly well for the UNC system, but for the community college system, you have a tremendous number of people that are getting workforce credentialing courses that are not a degree course, or you have individual certification courses. None of these were counting towards FTEs. So the community college was desperately trying to meet the needs for some of these exact jobs that you're talking about, but they got no funding for it. Well, Propel NC shifts us away from that FTE model, and it rewards community colleges for being innovative in responding to workforce needs. I'm kind of having the curse and the opportunity to advocate this on both sides, as we kind of started developing that as a charge from the General Assembly. And so we put it together, and now I'm telling my colleagues, you ask them to come up with something innovative and original. Don't punish them for it now. Now, there's a price tag to it. Full disclosure, there's a substantial price tag to it. So it would probably increase the amount of funding towards the community college system total by probably about 25 to 30%. But if you look at the return on investment that system would go to, it would be revolutionary for meeting workforce. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a homer. Rowan Cabarrus has been seen as one of the crown jewels of the 58 campuses in the system. And a lot of the innovative programs come out of that way. Dr. Spalding is all behind Propel NC. I'm shameless about it in Raleigh. Actually, every member in the General Assembly, Senate, or House knows I will buy them a cup of coffee if they just say the word Propel NC. So there's going to need to be some focus in the university system as well. But in terms of short-term desperate needs, the majority of it's got to go through the community college system. I'll put my pom-poms down.
I'll spare you the rest. I'm sure you guys will get back to me, except for one. You mentioned property taxes and how much that's hurting some families. But I think it's also adjacent items like health insurance, car insurance, home insurance rates that are also skyrocketing, and even energy. And so Rep. Almond, I believe you said you were on insurance committee, maybe? I could have that wrong. I don't know if you guys are having those discussions as well on how we can bring those costs down. I know it's a sort of a mix of private sector problems and things like that, but any information that could help, because that also would reduce the burden on the residents in addition to the property tax issues.
I mean, I can give you, I know that, we're all constantly working, right? We're all kind of living in the same world where there's less money to go around and everything is more expensive. So figuring out ways, right? Like we deal with it the same way. We only have a certain budget to work within, and trying to do what we can legislatively to bring those burdens down. But just like you may feel like you're beholden to what we're doing at the same level, at the state level, we also are feeling that from what the feds are doing. So a lot of stuff is kind of out of our jurisdiction, honestly. So we're working the best that we can to try to bring some real results. So.
I want to take kind of in pieces, in terms of the home and the property insurance, let me parse those out separately. Is, the tough part with that is those two insurances are directly or indirectly related to home values and home prices. So I think one of the easiest ways to bring down those two types of insurances is to try to lower housing costs as well. And look, I know we have to be responsible about housing development and residential housing building, but if you want to bring down housing costs, there's kind of two ways you can do it. You can reduce the demand by creating a recessionary environment with home buying. I don't think any of us want to do that. Or you can increase the supply with more houses. Now, we've seen, and there's a right way and there's a wrong way to do this. And in government, we often think if a little bit is good, a dump truck load is great. And I don't think we need to blow up the development that way. But if we're going to look for those two types of insurances, the only way we're going to be able to do that is lowering the cost of housing. Now, health insurance, I'm like, how many hours you got? But I will say some of this is a federal issue, but there's never been a product in the history of this country that was subsidized that the prices went down. Cool. And we are past time to have a serious conversation about the effects that Obamacare has had on the health insurance industry. And we're also going to have to take a pretty harsh look at the health insurance companies and their behavior. Last thing with energy, and you mentioned this a little bit in your question as well, I think we can't talk about energy supply and sustainability, and if you're big on green energy, there's no way to have that discussion without mentioning nuclear power for all of those. Now, a lot of times the electrical companies will tell us how burdensome it is, regulatory cost and time-wise. And it is to build these large nuclear facilities. From the time you get the green light, regulatory construction approval, you're probably looking at over a decade before it's coming online. We see an opportunity here for something called small modular reactors. These are small reactors that can, their footprint is tiny, and they can power an entire medium-sized town easily, and they can do these much cheaper, and there's a lot less of the environmental regulatory concerns with them as these big factories. But like Representative Almond said, a lot of this is going to be federal as to where we get relief for that.
Thank you all so much, and please let me know what I can do to support you in your efforts, any information you need from us. And what do I have to say? Propel NC.
Oh, yeah. Now, both of you. I'm a man of my word. Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
you asked what we can do together. Everything doesn't have to be legislated. There's some things that I encourage because to me, Cabarrus County is a model. We are leading the state in a lot of ways. Our communities are amazing. We're large enough to have every opportunity, small enough to know each other. So we are really, fantastic. And what I would ask is that we do what I'm required to do, which is hear what the problems are, the pain points. One builder, when we think builders, we think Lennar. We think Toll Brothers, but the truth is, some of these builders are our neighbors. And if it takes them 3 years to go from contract to shovel, and then they have to sell the property for $1 million because they have to recover that lost time and everything else, then yeah, that's going to impact the things that we can control. And I don't know that we need a heavy hand. There was a bill that came through, 765. It was heavy-handed for taking local authority from our municipal governments and county governments, and it was heavy-handed. However, a lot of the things in there are really local decisions that we can just become the leader in North Carolina. Cabarrus County has the leadership under your chairmanship. We have architects, Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Pittman. We have the ability to just say, you know what, we're going to do it right. We're going to streamline things so we don't increase costs that are eventually going to be multiplied to the buyer. And so when you ask what is it that we can do, let's take a look at even 765. I think there was a bill about pools. Let's take a look at it and say, what here can we just be the best at locally and start addressing our housing challenge locally instead of from Raleigh? Because we're unique. And anything that happens in Raleigh is going to likely be a nothing fits perfect because every community is unique. So I would say let's get together, let's set up a meeting, and let's figure out how we, with staff, how can we make life easier for everyone within our ability? And that's my request. Thank you.
Well, now that I have you all here, I'm not going to I want to take this opportunity to be a local advocate also for the animal shelter. As you all know, that was one of the requests that we had for this past year. I understand that the funding is different than it was during COVID. And you and I, all of us, we watched that money just be completely spent and blown, and now it's gone, and we're never going to get that money back. So I know that things are stretched thin for y'all. But if, by chance, you could find a way to squeeze a little bit out for the animal shelter, it's the same shelter we've had for the last 30 years. And we have a 60% life release, which is very sad. It's very sad. And the folks that work at that shelter, it takes a toll on them too, to have to do this every day. And so if you can find a way, we would be grateful. I'm not going to ask any other questions. I feel like you guys are just incredible representatives for each one of our districts. I'm so happy to know you. I'm so happy to have all of you up there fighting for the taxpayers, because that's what I've seen from all of you, is that you are fighters for the taxpayers, and that's what you campaigned on, and that's exactly what you're doing at the state level. And so as a resident of Cabarrus County, I'm grateful to have you as my representatives. I'm grateful that I can reach out to you with any questions or concerns. You're easy to get in touch with, and I know that it's not just for me. I know it's for every resident of Cabarrus County. So thank you all so much for the hard work that you put in. We know that you are there working on behalf of us. And so I just appreciate you all coming, and thank you so much. Yes, sir.
But I'll give them just one last comment.
Absolutely.
I am tickled that Cabarrus County right now in the legislature has a team. I wish when I was there that I could have been part of a team. But many times I was the only one who was really concerned about the people and not what I could get out of being there. Y'all are a team working for the people, and I appreciate that. I'm glad to see it.
And I'll tell you one thing that I'm going to brag on these guys a little bit, because no one brought up the bad word right now, budget. You know, we don't have a budget yet, and people have been critical of that, and I think that's fair. I want you guys to know that we, as a delegation, are trying to set the example to everyone to say, you know, the House can have views and the Senate can have views, and they can be different, but it doesn't mean the Senate's bad. It doesn't mean the House is bad. we have different views and we have to work those out. And we've heard it many times in Raleigh that our delegation, we're there to do the work. We're not there to throw grenades at each other. And I appreciate Senator Meisner. He's never kind of took shots at the House, and we're certainly not going to do it at the Senate. We've just got to work out the differences. But the Senate may see things different than I do, but it doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they're different, and we'll get it worked out.
Well, again, I thank you all very much for coming and joining us tonight. And so I hope you have a safe trip back home. Y'all be careful. Thank you. All right, we will move on to item 3.2, which is EV charging stations at county locations discussion. Kyle Billifer.
Three dual-head EV charging stations at county-operated locations. These locations are at the ITS and Emergency Equipment Warehouse, the county parking deck, and the Afton Library and Active Living Center. Currently, these stations can be utilized by staff or citizens for free. County staff would like to discuss the potential impacts of charging fees at these EV charging stations and seek input from the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners. So, the City of Concord doesn't charge at their EV charging stations. You can go on 2 to 3 different websites and find different charging stations in the area that do charge. They charge on an hourly basis or by kilowatt per hour. For accounting standpoint and for me to understand if we're making our money back, the kilowatt hour would be the easiest to do that. Hard to find them. There's not that many in Cabarrus County. Rowan Cabarrus Community College offers one. It's free. Town of Harrisburg has one at Harrisburg Park, and it is 80 cents an hour. I'm sorry? It is broken and charging 80 cents per hour. Don't spoil it for me because I'm going to get to the broken part. The charging stations provide a service to folks who are utilizing those vehicles. It's also a challenge for the maintenance staff, okay? So you have people that park in those spots for too long, even though you put up time restrictions. We don't have a towing policy for them now. If you start to charge, that'll need to be incorporated into our policy. And I will need to bring a wrecker into our parking deck on the first floor, right by the entrance, and try to remove those vehicles. The county parking deck is the location that sees the most sessions, meaning the most cars that try to charge. I would tell you for the longest duration of charges, it's actually the Afton Library and Active Living Center. I can also tell you that while I was out there in 12 inches of snow yesterday, waiting for the plow truck to come, there was a car parked there who's obviously not a patron since we weren't open, and their car was completely covered. So I know that's why I'm bringing this to you about charging for them. Surveying what's charged in the area, I think we would nestle into about 25 cents per kilowatt hour. That seems to be mid-range. I would tell you if you start to get up towards the Christenberry area, I believe there's a Lowe's Foods up there. The website says they're charging 35 cents per kilowatt hour. Again, I've not visited any of these. I'm just asking for some guidance, and before I start to try to sit down with Doug and figure out a policy, we would go and visit a lot of these locations and probably do some public records request to some other municipalities that are using them. But from what I can find online, most governments are not charging. I'm not saying all of them aren't. I'm just saying some of them aren't, and it depends on the location. If you start charging, that means when I get the angry call that tells me it's not charging fast enough, which I get those now. I'm sorry, I didn't get those until about a month ago. Now I get those now. Some of it's dependent on what type of vehicle they're using. There could be fluctuations in temperatures. Tesla's take an adapter. Our head might not fit that adapter well. I've watched them charge one vehicle and then 2 hours later not charge another vehicle, like literally watching it on camera and watching it on the database that we can track it on. So it is a bit complicated, and it does come along with a service contract. Currently, We do not have service contracts with our ChargePoint group. That's the people that manufacture that actual charger. If you enter that contract, that's why I'd want to charge, because I want to not only break even on the electricity, but I want to break even on that contract. That contract allows them to look at it and tell me what they think the problem is, and there's also a lot of parts inside of that charger that are covered by that agreement. Not all of them, but some of them. I will tell you that our oldest one, and the one that receives the most sessions, is a 3G. So in terms of the communication, it's also built in a parking deck, and if you know anything about the construction of that, it's not great for the, I guess, what I would call the ability for data access. So it's become very challenging, and after talking to the city of Concord, who had the same problem in their parking deck where they utilized one, they had advised me you might just want to replace that, and that's obviously a significant cost at about the $10,000 area. So not looking for somebody to vote, but also looking for some guidance from this board of what you all are thinking about in terms of EV charging stations.
Commissioner Pittman?
Well, there it is. Either you or somebody have an answer to this question. I'd like to get it. Or do we have any debt from having installed those charging stations?
The one that we utilized at the county parking deck was a grant that the city of Concord got. They're obviously a utility provider, and I'm going out on a limb and saying that there's a lot of grants that go with clean energy and things like that and initiatives. So they provided one free for us at that. So the answer is no, we did not pay for that one. At the ITS building and the Afton, yes, the county paid for them. Now, you're asking me if it was specifically in a debt package. Probably the answer is yes on Afton and probably no on ITS.
Okay.
I'd have to go look with our finance director and see exactly which projects those were and if we still owe debt on them to answer your question. But we did pay for them,
Okay.
one way or the other.
Afton is a yes.
Yeah.
We do have the debt on that.
Well, we borrowed and bought it, so
Okay.
yes, we have.
Yeah, I think the ITS building, I think we paid and is done. I don't feel confident we do not owe any money on that.
Well, Madam Chair, and fellow commissioners, my feeling is that we certainly do need to charge for this. Because one way or another, the taxpayers, many of whom can't afford an EV, paid for this. And yes, we need to charge for it. And if there's any debt on it, the money, we need at least some of that money to pay that debt off. But then beyond that, as we continue to charge for these charging stations, I would propose, and I'd like to make this a motion when the time's appropriate, which is probably not right now. I would like to propose that we continue to charge for it and that every penny from that point goes to paying down our county debt. It may not be much, but every little bit helps, and we need to get out of this debt. This is one way to help do it, and I would definitely want to make that proposal.
Any other questions? Commissioner Jones?
Just a couple. You have any idea how much it's used by staff versus citizens?
At the parking deck,
You know,
we don't have staff that parks there. I mean, I'm sure some staff parks there, but no, I do not think it's being utilized a lot by staff. Maybe by courthouse staff, but I also doubt that. They're in there earlier in the morning, and I don't see them on the camera in that charging station. At Afton, a possibility, but I think a bulk of your users, quite frankly, is the apartment complex next door. Gut reaction to what I watch on the camera. Not going to tell you that people don't go in there. I mean, that, you had a question, sir, in your previous, when you were speaking to the elected officials, you said Harrisburg is the most visited. You were correct in your assumption that it is actually Afton now. And Harrisburg and Concord are about tied. But saying that, we have a lot of people going to Afton. I mean, that parking lot is about 90% capacity most of the time during the day. So I won't tell you it's always those apartments, but I will tell you that I live, so I use it as a cut through to check my properties. And I'm going to tell you at midnight, there's somebody charging their car there.
When you figure out the cost, you said the medium range that everybody else charges 25 cents a kilowatt, is that?
I'm not an expert on this. If
Okay.
you ask me how to demo a building or build it or run an operation, I tell you yes, okay? I don't own an electric vehicle. I've done a lot of research out there and seeing what the rates are, and then I have also talked to a lot of engaged and angry folks who call about our charging stations, and I've asked them what they're used to paying. And you know, they would say things like, well, 19 cents. And after they'd be done yelling at me, I'd say, well, what do you think of that rate? And they're like, oh, that, you know, that's a really, really good rate. Heck, I pay 50 cents sometimes. And I'm like, okay. So I'm kind of putting some stuff back in my head. I feel confident that if we get into that 25-cent range, as time goes on, and if we do sign this contract, this platform and also maintenance contract, it allows a lot of data analytics to be run. So it will allow me to pull and see what my current rates are, and then if I need to adjust. So that's what I'm hoping to do. I don't want to enter a service contract and keep giving the electricity away for free, and I know that that's not kind of the feeling of this board, so I wanted to bring this up.
What I'd like to see is you figure out the service contract and make sure we see what it covers. We also got a plan for things it doesn't cover, if it breaks down, replacement costs, and different things like that, and add something to that to cover the unexpected as well, and the energy cost that we absorb.
So the flip side of that is if you start charging, especially at our county parking deck location, and you want me to forecast that. So somebody goes up there and smashes their car into it or takes a baseball bat to it or something like that, and I have to provide one of another $10,000. If I try to adjust those rates to pay for that, they'll just go down the street to the City of Concord parking deck. So this is why I want to talk about this board, because it encompasses towing vehicles, and when we start charging, it means when they call me and say, it doesn't charge my car at night. You need to understand, that's a call I get. Not that it doesn't charge my car during the day, but at night. That means myself and a building maintenance technician meeting down there with this person at night and understanding why it doesn't charge their car, because we are charging for
But
that.
wouldn't the service contract, they handle that? Is that the kind
I
of
don't
service
think they're going to
contract
come
they
out
do?
at 9 o'clock to meet this gentleman. I think what they'll tell me is they'll run the same diagnostics I did and say, Kyle, the station is working fine. I'm not saying that's every call I'm getting. I just want to make this board understand that you're talking about something that some folks are very, very passionate about. So you start charging. Now, in my policy, if it doesn't charge your vehicle, well, you can just stop charging and not be charged. So that's kind of been what I've been telling a lot of these folks is, well, you're not being charged for this. Why? I get that you're upset, and I get that you drove out here in the cold at 9 p.m. to charge your car, but also, we're not making you spend money to do it, and that hasn't helped. So I just wanted to point out that if you raise your rate too high, I think they'll go down the street where it's free.
Okay. Is there any kind of insurance that could cover vandalism and things like that to these charging stations?
You've got general liability, but as with any municipal or county as large as we have, I mean, your deductible. You
Basically
could probably break
self-insured.
250 of them and we wouldn't touch it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the numbers you pull together.
Sure. My thoughts were if this board wants me to move forward with this, it'd be going back to the drawing board and figuring out a policy and doing a lot of research probably after the retreat to try to bring this up. Like I said, I can't find, I mean, obviously I'll reach out to Harrisburg and see how they came up with their numbers, but City of Concord is usually who I'd speak to about this, and they're telling me they're going to continue as a free service.
Is there any particular time, I don't know if you can find this information out, are they being used mostly at night or during the day? Do you know?
Parking deck and Afton are both.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right. Yeah, I'm interested in getting information. I think we should start charging something, recoup some of our costs and not give it away, like Mr. Pittman said. but I'd like to see the numbers and see how it actually flushes out and works. Thank you.
Yep.
I guess was kind of a thing that was popular, with all new technologies, and the Inflation Reduction Act injected a lot of dollars for those grants for people to start doing this. I don't see why we would have ever been subsidizing electric costs at all. I know that it's minimal, but that's like saying, if you drive a purple car, I'll give you a free tank of gas as long as you're the first one here in the morning. And I don't think we should be doing that at all. There's a larger question, so I'm for step one there. There's a larger question of whether this is something that we want to do at all. I mean, your other option is to just take them down and not give yourself the headache.
Yes, I wasn't going to point that out, but I'm actually just going to turn the breaker off and put a sign on them until I get to the chance of taking them down.
Okay. I mean, because that's what I would recommend.
So funny story. That's actually what we were just talking about too.
Yeah.
My question was, why do we even do this anyway? This is not, so when I pull up somewhere at the library or wherever, I don't expect somebody to come and fill my gas tank up if it's empty. I don't know. Like you said, I understand maybe at the beginning of all this, why everybody kind of got into this charging situation, but if I'm out of gas, I'm going to the gas station before I go park my car. So if I can't park, I'm going to charge my car. And again, this is not anything that I don't have I do, but I never charge it. I asked them if they could just, if I put gas in it, will it run? And they were like, yeah, it's a hybrid. So I'm just wondering if this is even worth having all of this headache for you, because it sounds like a headache. And if whatever contract fees and service fees and maintenance fees and phone calls that you get at night because it's not charging properly, is that even worth it?
I feel that this is the elected officials' decision to make, not mine.
So we're talking about a total of 3 that we have?
Dual head, so if you really want to look at it, 6 stations, but yes, if you walked up to them, it'd be 3 individual stations. That is correct. You can
Commissioner
park
Pittman?
2 cars there. And again, I'm not asking for a vote.
Oh, I get it.
To answer your question, because I think you're trying to ask why. In the instance of the parking deck was literally 60% built with MEP in it before we added that. The city of Concord really asked me for a favor because they had that grant money and they felt it would be a great idea. And just so you know, city of Concord was a limited financial partner in that parking deck. The other locations, that is the instructions that at that time that I was given by leadership. And I'll also tell the board that in several of the other projects that Michael and I designed and he built after I left, we actually have pipe in the ground to be able to put additional ones in there. Obviously, I'll never tell anyone where that is, but I'm joking. Yes, we have other locations where we could put it in or add. That is correct. And we were given that direction. The answer is yes, I can remove them. I can cap them, I can make them safe. I can enter these contracts and I can provide the service to folks and charge. And every single year as it goes on, I can look at our increases and how often it's being used and make those adjustments as easy as that over the system. I can make those adjustments. It's a quick click of the mouse and we can change a rate. But we would need a policy in place.
Commissioner
Madam Chair, after hearing your remark, I'd like to adjust my previous comments just a little bit to say, if we keep doing this, we need to charge for it and it needs to go to paying down the debt. But if you want to rip them out, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. I don't know the right answer, and I know that we're not here to take a vote on this, but I just, listening to you, it sounds like a really big headache for something that is not our responsibility anyway, and I feel like we could be utilizing your intelligence and your smarts with other things rather than somebody's vehicle not charging overnight.
It's actually the people that work for me that are much smarter than I am, but yes.
I understand.
Thank you. But I just wanted you to have the full history of where they come up, because I get a lot of comments of why aren't you doing this and why, and currently our maintenance department is not set up to maintain EV car charging stations. I will just be very honest with you. We are trying to tackle the buildings we have and limit it that.
So what that tells me even more is that we don't even have the capacity to be able to be dealing with all of this at this point. So in some respect, we would probably have to hire either more people to have to deal
No.
with it.
No, we would not hire
We
more
would-
people.
okay.
We're just a service contract. We're already maintaining what we have.
But I wonder how much additional time and money and effort that it would take in order to do this. If we were gonna do it, I would say charge, but like Commissioner Pittman said, what if we just don't do it?
Well, you won't be violating any laws if you don't do it. I can tell you that. And I can safely turn them off and put signs on them and not rip them out for 6 months. I can do all that, or I can come back to you in a couple months with some more research. And I can tell you, after reaching out to a couple other governmental entities throughout the state, if anyone has a policy and what that policy says, or I'll summarize it in terms of what it says, are they evaluating every 6 months or a year? And then you all can make a decision based on that. Or I'll come back and tell you, I couldn't find anything. Nobody wants to talk to me about anything except the fact that they don't like them either. That could happen also.
Well, I'm good with that approach. If you want to find out some more information to see if anybody else does it, and maybe they have the magic answer for it, and we can make some good money and pay off some of our debt, and it's not going to cause you the headache and your staff the headache. But if not, we can make that decision when you come back with that information.
Well, I'm sorry to take your guys' time with.
I just had one
Why?
more question.
That's-
Yeah, this
no,
is
it's
a
not.
hot topic.
How long do you think you need to do to find out? I'm kind of leaning towards turning them off while you do that.
I'd like to come back in probably April. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm tied up trying to get a lot of stuff together for the retreat that's been tasked, and I'd like to actually have the time to call a lot of folks and talk to them. And I think that I'm probably not going to get a lot of answers, because I think there's a lot of municipalities and counties that are struggling like us. I can go on that map and I can find ones in municipal and county parking decks, and nobody's charging. So I have a feeling everybody's thinking the same thing I am, is the minute you do that, you all of a sudden become like one of these large charging stations. I'm sure that you see them. You click that button for help service, I guarantee you a service tech is coming out to make sure that your car gets charged. And we're not going to be able to provide that. I mean, right now, I'm worried about the call that says, hey, there's no heat in this building. I got to get the person out to that one. That's more of a priority to me. So.
And it should be. It should be.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So those are the things I'm trying to focus on. But yes, I'd like to come back in April. And I think if you turned them off right now, you might in fact make my life worse with the calls that I would get. I think that's what you might have been looking for.
We don't have any electric fleet vehicles, do we?
We do not, well, let me put it this way. I left for 2 years, but that I'm aware of, the answer is no. We do have hybrids. So we drive, we have Camrys and Priuses, but those are real hybrids and not what you're discussing, where you can charge it or fuel it. That's not the type of technology it uses. It uses the braking technology to generate it so that your miles per gallon stretches more.
Yeah, well, pound for pound of battery, that's the smartest way to do electric vehicles anyway. But if, I was just gonna say, if you didn't wanna waste the equipment and we had fleet vehicles, just make them county charging, but it doesn't sound like we have any, so.
Yeah. No, we've
Nix
not
that idea.
implemented, in fact, in my research, I got the whole Mecklenburg implements to be completely EV or 85% EV cars by a certain year. We've not implemented anything like that.
We're not under Gavin Newsom.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Kyle. We appreciate
Thank
your
you.
report. All right, we will move on to 4.1, boards and committees. Sarah?
Tracy's online.
Tracy?
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hey, Tracy.
Hi, this is Sarah Newman.
Hey, Sarah.
Everybody can hear me? No, you're good.
So we are going to move on to 4.1. If you want to give us the information for the removals.
Absolutely. So just to introduce myself again, I'm Sarah Newman. I'm the Cabarrus County Livestock and Field Crops Agent. As a part of my role, I facilitate the Voluntary Agricultural District Program, as well as the Agricultural Advisory Board. Today, I'm bringing forward a couple different items for our board. So first, we have the removal of Mr. Lewis Souther and Mr. Bob Blackwelder, both who have actually served on the Agricultural Advisory Board since its beginning in 2006. So I did just want to take this moment to really express my gratitude towards them on behalf of our board. They have a long-standing commitment to Cabarrus County agriculture. We're extremely grateful for their dedication, and they will definitely be missed. We also have one reappointment that will be Mrs. Wendy Sellers, who will continue to serve on the board, as well as one new appointment, and that's Mr. Carl Walker. We're really happy to have both of them on the board. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Are you okay with putting this on the consent agenda? All right. Thank you, Sarah. We're going to put this on the consent agenda for y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, so we will move to 4.5. Cabarrus Soil and Water Conservation District authorization for approval of grant contract for agricultural growth zone. Amy Cook and Daniel McClellan.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, I guess. We just heard, I'm here to request approval of grant funds. Those are for a agricultural growth zone, which is essentially grant money for conservation easements and farmland preservation money. We did approach the board back in September 2024 for permission to apply for that, which was approved. And we just heard back on the status of that application, which is that it was approved for $413,477. At the time of September 2024, we also asked the commissioners for matching funds from the Ned Hudson Back Tax Fund. And that back tax fund is, specifically delegated to agricultural use, parks, and conservation easements. So at that time, we are approved for those matching funds in the amount of $606,000, and those have already been earmarked for this project. We'll also be receiving some matching funds from the landowners participating in the grant as well. So really, I'm just here for permission to accept that grant award and then approval of the budget amendment that is attached to your agenda.
Commissioners, did you have any questions about the grant?
I just have a question about the Ned Hudson Fund Back Tax Fund. What is that consist of?
The deferred tax value, the PUV, deferred tax money, goes into this account. It was set up by the commissioners years ago to collect those back taxes for the purposes that Amy mentioned. And it was renamed probably 3 years ago for Ned Hudson, who was a big advocate for that program. So that funding is used.
So do all the deferred taxes when you convert farmland?
Correct.
That goes
Into this fund,
this
and
fund?
it's been used to help purchase conservation easements. It was used for Lomax Farm. It was used for some park work. I think those are the primary uses that we have put it toward over the years.
Is there any way to deviate from that fund in any way?
We'd have to change the program. I think it's got a program ordinance, project ordinance on it.
I'm just concerned the more farmland it converts, the less conservation land's gonna be out there for us to use the money on.
There is, one of the things that has happened over the past few years, and Amy and Daniel can speak to this, is there is not as much funding at the state and federal level, and there's more competition for it. And one of our struggles here is the value of our land. So this fund is very helpful for us, because the property owners do have to put some money into the deal too. So it kind of sets up a three-way situation where we're assisting, and it puts it into conservation status in perpetuity.
I just wanted to understand what it was. Thank you.
Any other
I'm fine with
questions?
on consent.
Okay. Everybody good with consent? All right, thank you, Amy. We'll put that on the consent agenda.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 4.6, Cooperative Extension Budget Amendment Cannon Grant. Tracy?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. You'll see in your packet there that there is a budget amendment that is aligned with our 4-H after-school program grant funds that they have received through the Cannon Foundation. This is a longstanding partnership with the Cannon Foundation. It is something that we reapply for every year with a different direction of the grant. And, you know, the Cannon Foundation, specifically through the Cannon Charitable Interests, we have changed up the grant cycle a little bit. So we are currently awaiting the big grant. And so when I say big grant, it's usually between $40,000 and $50,000 that helps fund our 4-H after school program, which supplies programming to the 4-H kids, or the Kids Plus sites that are at all the Cabarrus County schools, and a few other after school sites that our program assistant works to give that programming support to. And so this grant is actually a grant to cover between now, which is the old funding cycle, and then the new funding cycle, which will kick in this spring. And so we just got this award in the mail the other day. It's $11,250, and it's just enough to get us through the April cycle to help cover the costs. And if you see the breakdown, it does cover a program assistant that is specifically for that grant funded position. And so you break down all the little pieces and parts that go into the benefits for that position. And then a good chunk of it goes to the program fees. So you'll see an approved budget, which is actually rollover from last year's budget into, or FY25 into FY26, and then an increase amount for this current. And then once we receive word, if we are able to secure funding for the next round, we'll come back with another budget amendment for the next round of grant awards.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
No question for me.
All right, everyone good with the consent?
Consent's fine with me.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. We're gonna put that on consent agenda.
Thank you.
We're gonna move to 4.7, Cooperative Extension Poultry Equipment Rental. Tracy and Sarah.
Hey everybody, this is Sarah again. We were here last month looking for guidance on this poultry equipment rental program that we were proposing. Just to remind everybody a little bit on what this program really looked like, our proposal was to create a limited structured rental program with the existing equipment we already have. This would allow Cabarrus County citizens to engage in humane animal handling and kind of get involved in their local food system. After your guidance and support from that last January meeting, we've been working closely with Doug, Kyle, and John to really draft the full guidelines as well as that liability form. So attached to y'all's agenda, you have both that guidelines document, typing out all of those program fees, kind of our policy at Cooperative Extension, as well as the liability form that Doug helped us out with. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer anything. I don't know if Tracy had anything else to add as well.
Commissioners?
I think another additional guidance that we would like, the way it's written is that in the rental fees and rental policies, if that's something that you want us to revisit with a schedule of fees every year, or is this something that just as it's written, we're okay with, you know, moving forward and doing this? If for whatever reason that needs to change in the future, is that something that the board would like feedback on? Or does that approval of this allow us with an extension to be able to insert or adjust that as appropriate?
Tracy, you would have to bring that to the board to change it once it's adopted as a fee. You can, if you want to put escalation in there, if that's the board's pleasure. It's probably not something that's going to have a lot of change overall, so it may be something that you can just address as needed.
Do you have a question?
I'm just concerned about the liability that follows this. It seems like a very dangerous activity. And who you're getting your indemnity from, they're not gonna have any assets. How much are we on the hook there?
And I see John approaching, so John and Kyle, of course, have been in conversation with them, probably even more than I have. But of course, most of these people doing this, and this might be something better for Sarah or Tracy to address, most of the people doing this are familiar with the project. In other words, it's not their first time. They may be small. It's a home-based operation, but they're generally familiar with it. They do have, in addition to this material, they have walkthroughs and demonstrations that they give to people. And we've even talked about not even allowing people to leave if we don't think they have it tied down securely. So I think the staff, especially in the beginning, is going to be very tuned in to those kinds of issues. There's nothing sharp. I mean, people are using knives and that type of thing, but we're not providing anything like that. I guess the scalder is, of course, the most significant safety hazard there is.
There's that, as well as chemicals. They are proposing to give out mineral oil, which is not too dangerous. But as far as the equipment, they are going to be supplying gloves as well, heat gloves. So if those get a hole in them or anything, granted, there is the waiver that will be included in that they must sign, and they must also receive that training before they're able to take anything out. So there are some concerns there where somebody could make a claim, not necessarily that they're going to win it, but that we would have to combat it. Same thing if somebody doesn't secure it properly on their vehicle, or a tie down on their vehicle breaks off and it comes flying out. If that equipment has a Cabarrus County logo on it, we could still be named in a case. Doesn't mean that we would lose it, but we would at least have to spend money fighting that case.
Yeah, I think you're talking about liability. We have liability in a lot of the programs that we do. You are right. This is chicken processing equipment, and when you say it like that, it sounds a little scary. I've killed more chickens than anybody else, I'm sure, employed at the county, because I worked at Tyson Foods for 5 years. It's not the same type of environment that you're looking at when you go in a manufacturing facility and all that scalding water and everything. It's a little bit one more sided. They will go through the training with them, and we've made it about as airtight as you possibly can from a legal standpoint for everything. And I think, I don't want to speak for Tracy and Sarah, but I'm sure if there was an incident, they would immediately suspend until we could review. But I really feel like we've gone through everything on this, and there is an identified need for it based on the classes they're having. But I do appreciate your concern about the liability, because we don't hear that a lot, and John needs that reinforcement that people are thinking about it, to be honest with you. But it is a concern we had when we kind of met with them, and I really do feel like we've gone through all of that.
Any other questions?
I think it looks fine. Tracy and Sarah, I think you guys did a good job editing all the fees and all that kind of stuff. I'm fine with whatever you guys want to do with the fees. Doug, I'll get with you offline. Just one little clerical issue I see, but we can talk about that offline. Good.
Commissioners, are you okay putting this on the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to put this on the consent agenda, Tracy and Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will move to 4.8, Consolidated Human Services Agency Transportation of Elderly and Handicap Grant. And we have Suzanne Moose.
Hi.
Welcome. And we have Charles online.
Thank you, Commissioners, for your time this evening. up for your consideration is an application to apply for a 5310 grant. 5310 grant, it serves the elderly and handicapped population. And as we continue to research and identify any type of grant opportunity to ensure that we are obviously reducing county funds, obviously, that's one of our main goals, ensuring that we're sustainable. So we were asking for an additional amount of money within the 5310 grant this year. If you may recall, last year we did request additional funding for 5310 for transportation for these citizens, and we did receive some additional funding, which is great. So we're going to ask for additional funding again this year within operating and also within traditional capital. Traditional capital is an 80-20 match. The match is 50-50 in operating. The budget and within transportation already has the matches within the budget. Of course, we're with salary and wages, drivers going and taking these trips, you're already paying maintenance, et cetera. So I wanted to send this for your consideration to apply for the grant. If awarded the grant, we would be back, obviously, for a budget amendment.
Charles, did you have anything you wanted to add, sir?
No, Suzanne covered it good there. I just, the trips that are covered under this funding, like she says, for the elderly and handicapped, we take folks to like DaVita Dialysis. Rowan Cabarrus Community College has a SOAR program for mentally disabled individuals. We take folks to the CVO, which is the Cabarrus Vocational Opportunities, Levine Cancer, and then just regular general doctor appointments are covered under this funding.
Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding the grant?
I don't have a question, but I understand, Charles, I understand that y'all worked through all this snowstorm and still got people to dialysis and everything your team did. And
Yes, sir. Saturday, we had 4 drivers and 2 supervisors and myself come in to get folks to their dialysis treatments on Saturday. So as much as I enjoy the snow with my kids, the line of business I'm in, I'm ready for it to go away.
well, I wanted to thank you and your team for doing that.
Right, good job.
Appreciate it. I'll pass it along to the team.
We definitely appreciate all of the hard work that you've done over these last two weekends, and I know that you're probably looking forward to a weekend that is snow-free, ice-free.
Yes, ready to get back to baseball weather.
I hear you. I'm with you. Commissioners, are you okay on the consent agenda for this? Okay, thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you
We'll
very
put this on the
much.
consent agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. All right, moving to 4.9, Facilities Design and Construction. Recommended approval of the preferred bid alternate for the Progress Place renovation. Michael Miller. Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Okay, this presentation is in regard to the Progress Place building renovation, as you mentioned. So North Carolina General Statute 133-3 requires performance standards to be used when specifying building products. The statute allows preferred brands of equipment to be bid as an alternate, provided that they were approved by the Board of Commissioners. And to be approved, the alternate must either provide a cost savings or maintain or improve the functioning of a process or system affected by the brand alternate. For this project, we're only asking for one preferred alternate, and that's the building automation system, which manages the HVAC controls and the contractor who will integrate the system. And to be clear, I'm asking for approval of the preferred brand alternate for the equipment and the integration contractor. So without getting too techy and in the weeds, I'll mention a little bit about that system. The manufacturer is Johnson Controls, and their equipment is the Facility Explorer system with a Niagara-based Tritium platform. the controls integration contractor is Platinum Building Automation. And so this Johnson control system matches the system that's used in most of our other large square footage buildings that we maintain. And by standardizing, we should realize cost savings and efficiencies there. So using a different manufacturer, for example, could increase long-term operational costs. A different system would not necessarily provide the same level of accessibility that our current system provides. Also, our infrastructure and asset management folks would have to go through new training to learn a new system and then remember how to use both of them. So, Platinum Building Automation is the county's current service contract or HVAC controls provider. And using them as integration contractor for the project is critical for the interface of the county buildings with the existing county controls. The new building controls will be required to be integrated to the existing controls server. It's located here in the governmental center, and this server holds the global control information that allows county maintenance staff to access most buildings from anywhere. So using an integration contractor will likely result, a different integration contractor will likely result in a different level of service for the county and increased costs. So for all those reasons, my requested motion at the regular meeting is for a motion to approve the preferred brand alternate list for the equipment and the integration contractor for the Progress Place renovation. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Commissioner Patrick?
Yeah, I just have one. Obviously, as an architect who lives with this statute on a day-to-day basis, I know how this preferred brand alternate stuff works, and of course you should do it. My question is this stuff that normally comes to the board? Because
Yes,
shouldn't
sir.
you guys just do this in your normal day-to-day business?
I think the statute reads that we have to approve it every time. I could be wrong, but typically when we have a preferred brand alternate list, we come before the board.
Really? Okay. I've never had to, for any of my clients, it doesn't go to the Board of Trustees of a university, they just handle it.
I'm going to check into that.
I mean, I think it would be easier for you, it'd save a lot of staff time, it'd save you coming here, it'd save you
Yes, sir.
presenting at a work session and making it to a meeting. I mean, I don't know if that's possible. When we do it, we just state it at the pre-bid meeting, that counts as the open meeting, and you're,
For single primes, we do.
yeah.
And that's how we get around it on CMAR, I'm sorry, Construction Manager at Risk.
Yeah.
They require us to come up, and we actually started this with the courthouse, and the list looks very similar as we move on. Like, we have our preferred alternates that we like for.
Yeah, door hardware.
Yeah,
you know.
yes, yeah, specifically, actually, more ours, the locking mechanisms, because we utilize a triple cup Medico system. So we do go through this all the time. Our fear of going in front of the board and saying, approve this, was that some of the preferred alternates have changed over time. And to give you an idea, you know, we used a certain exterior plank in one of our buildings, but after we went and tested it at like 4 different locations with maintenance people, like we got up there and hit it with a hammer and cut it. And we did utilize it in 2 of our locations, but then when we got to a 3rd location, there was something on the market that had a better, I guess, a better warranty for us, and we switched, and I would have to come back to the board. So we've never we've kind of done it project by project.
Oh, I see.
That's the only reason, to give you some history of why, because every time I brought him up prior to Michael, I got the same look of, why are you telling us about this stuff? You usually handle it.
Okay.
But that was the reason.
Okay.
And
Understood.
the door locks you mentioned it's worth noting that the building's already got the door locks that match our system, so we don't have to do a preferred alternate in this instance. A lot of the stuff already kind of does carry over.
Yeah. Okay, just curious. Hopefully we can save you some time in the
Oh, yeah,
future.
we don't want to,
Sure.
and we don't want to get in the weeds and waste your time. We
Yeah.
we
Okay.
know what have happened to other counties that haven't done it, and that's why we wanted to do it.
Understood, thanks.
Commissioner Pittman?
Madam Chair, I just want to say that I appreciate dealing with this in this manner. My feeling would be if we were a private business, we might handle it differently, but as government, we're not a private business, and we're spending taxpayer funding, and this kind of thing should come before us to decide.
Any other questions? Are we good with consent agenda? consent agenda? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Moving on to 4.10. This is for Doug Hall, the termination of the 2022 Economic Development Grant between Kroger Fulfillment Network LLC and the City of Concord and Cabarrus County. Mr. Hall.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. If it pleases the board, I think everybody is familiar with this project, but for the record, this is the Kroger Online Delivery Fulfillment Center on Highway 49. They've completed it. They've not staffed it. They haven't opened it. They haven't created any jobs. They have 3 or 4 of these operating in other states, and they are also shutting all of them down in addition to not opening this one. They are just pivoting away from this business model altogether and leaning into Instacart, Uber Eats, that type of thing for online deliveries. So they have not been paid any money under this agreement. The triggering mechanism has not been met. No jobs created, I think, was the main one, and then there were some others. So they haven't been paid a penny. They don't want a penny. They have asked us and the city to execute the document you see there with your agenda, which they have already executed, which basically just puts that in writing, that it's a closed matter, nobody owes anybody any money, and everybody walks away. So we bring this to you all for discussion and approval as appropriate.
Any questions? Consent?
Yeah, I just had a couple small questions.
Yes.
Kelly, thank you for putting together that Excel spreadsheet. I realize that these aren't perfect numbers, but as I understand it, it was going to be a 3-year deal, and their general tax levy for the property was going to be $276,000 plus or minus a year, and the grant was plus or minus $235,000 a year. Am I reading this correctly, the Excel spreadsheet?
David, you want to come on? David's our in-house expert.
Okay.
On this matter. He will be happy to walk you through the details of this.
So I think at the point of that 2026 tax year, if they had met all the investment numbers that they projected, then the county portion of their tax levy would be $276,000, and their return in that grant at 85% would be $235,000.
Okay.
That's correct.
So I think I'm reading it correctly.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. That's all.
We good to put that on consent as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. And David, you get to stay up here with us for 4.11, tax administration approval of 2025 delinquent taxes, having liens on real property and advertisement date.
Thank you. So this is based on North Carolina General Statute 105-369 that requires that I report to you the amount of currently unpaid taxes on real property from the 2025 tax year. That amount, as of the time we created this agenda item, January 20th, was $14,126,824.75. Subtracting those tax dollars that are in the midst of bankruptcy proceedings, which is $42,640. Current property tax commission appeals that are outstanding at $80,154.84. The total lien as of January 20th was $14,004,029.55. That certainly has changed daily. I think we report these numbers. I can provide updated numbers where at this point, as of today, an unaudited number, about 12.5 million. So that is on pace with our typical collection status at this time of year. So nothing of concern there outside of the norm from a collection procedure. So the statute also requires, upon receiving this report, the board must order the tax administrator collector to advertise those tax liens. We would request that that advertisement date be set for March 28th. The reason for pushing it out that far is it gives us an opportunity to send a delinquent notice to each of the owners on record for these properties. Just another opportunity to make them aware that there's an outstanding bill. Give them instruction on both how to pay and the fact that those will be advertised and collection actions will be taken if they don't. So The request then is just a motion to approve the report for the 2025 outstanding delinquent taxes that are a lien on real property, and to order the tax administrator to advertise those liens on March 28th, 2025. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just a question for Can't ever work this thing. You may not know this. Compared to last year at this time, do you know what that outstanding amount was?
I think so. This number, the 14 million, is a couple weeks before the point when we pulled that last year, which was about 12 million. I think today's number, as I looked at it, unaudited, because I wouldn't provide that to you, but it's about 12.5 million. So we're right at the same level of collection, essentially, that we were at this time last year. We're confident that that's about 4 to 4.5% remaining to collect. Our typical is to try to be above 99%, and we've got from now until the end of June to do that. I think we're on pace to do that as usual.
Now, how successful were we to get that money in versus actually doing a tax foreclosure?
So our collection process through within the fiscal year by the end of June for each year is over 99%. We're almost at 99.5% each year that we collect. We do use, that's not to say we don't use collection action on those. So these items, the 14 million, are considered delinquent, and we do have the authority to use collection action. We have a broad range of actions that we can use. Our initial point is to send that letter out, letting people know they are delinquent and making them aware that there's an outstanding bill, and that garners a lot of response.
And do we ultimately turn over the collection to a third party, or do we still do it in-house?
No, sir, we do all our collection in-house. And we have a great staff that gets us over 99% every year, and we're very proud of that process.
Thank you.
And we do so with what we think is excellent customer service and respect in that process too. So.
Any other questions? Are we good with consent? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, so we will move on to item number 5, and that's approval of the regular meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda for February 17th as presented?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, before we adjourn, I want to take an opportunity to express some gratitude for what I got to witness personally myself from our staff. The last week and a half or so has been filled with many weather updates, many communication calls, multiple times a day. And I have to give some names for people that I had an opportunity to talk with and work with and serve with over the last week and a half. So if I don't say your name, I apologize, but please know that I'm going to try to name your department, if nothing else. So I had the opportunity last Saturday evening to work at the Senior Center from about 9 p.m. until 6 a.m. with some incredible staff members. Dawn Gustafson in Emergency Management, Joanne Tomlin and Susan Dillon, who work in child support, Amy Smith, Jennifer Ramsey, and her daughter, who also work in child support, not the daughter, she was just there to come hang out with everybody. Julie Viteri with the animal shelter, Sheriff Jason Gilmore, thank you for making coffee. I don't think any of us could have lived without it. I want to thank the Hellfighters, Henry Lee. Thank you so much. I don't think people understand what the Hellfighters did during this time. They had a warming shelter open every single night, every single day. The last I heard, they had about 30 plus people there. And so that allowed us to help support them and not have to open up a warming shelter as well. I want to thank Jason Burnett. I want to thank all of the people at the Health Alliance, the Cabarrus Health Alliance that was there. They were there last Saturday as well. Amy Potosny, Aaron Shu, Kim Reagan, Allie Nicholson, Marcus Meisenheimer, Wendy Harsh, Tammy Alexander, Rolanda Patrick, Jennifer Brackett, and Alicia Luke. Thank you all so much for coming in the weather, the snow, the ice, left their families to be able to do this. EMS, IAM, the Sheriff's Department, Transportation, Child Support, Communications. Jonathan Weaver was there too with us that night, capturing the moment, taking pictures. The IT department, the fire services. I know that our fire marshal, Jacob, was there that night too and offered everybody some chili. So it was just an incredible experience to see everybody band together. Kelly, thank you for your leadership during all of this. And I'm honored to be able to work with so many amazing people in this county. And you all really stepped up and showed exactly what you're made of for the last week and a half, and it was really incredible to see. And Jonathan Weaver actually made a video about that and interviewed Dawn Gustafson, who is an incredible lady. If I'm ever in an emergency, I want to be with Dawn. So I hope you guys will enjoy this, and thank you again so much.
When we started seeing the predictions for Winter Storm Fern, we were a little concerned that this could have some significant impacts for the county. We knew then that we needed to start preparing early. So we actually started on Thursday with discussions and pre-staging some equipment. Saturday night, we actually had the second of our stakeholders meeting. At that time, we were seeing some impacts come in. What we had thought was going to be sleet had turned more to freezing rain a lot earlier than we had anticipated. So at that meeting, it was decided to go ahead and stand up the shelter. We've actually exercised at this site, used it as a shelter exercise site. So we knew exactly where everything needed to go. If you are opening up for an unknown need, in that situation, the preference is to go ahead and set up your full shelter setup, kind of what you think the max you might need is. That way you're using your space efficiently. I was able to throw a lot of people at what is probably the most difficult task, which is setting up cots. From start to finish, I think we ended up about 3.5 hours having a fully functional, fully staffed shelter. We had emergency medical services, we had Sheriff's Office, Health Alliance, Consolidated Human Services Agency, Squad 410, Fire Marshal's Office, IAM, County Manager's Office, and BOC.
They were willing to go to the shelter and be there to help when somebody came in. It's people that really truly care about other people in this community and want to help. It was uplifting to be able to see all of that in action. And we're so prepared. We really are very prepared in an emergency situation. It's just nothing that you really ever think about until you actually go there and see it in action. If truly necessary in an emergency situation, I have no doubt in my mind that the people of Cabarrus County are prepared and ready to help.
It went very, very well. I was very pleased with all of the staff. I was really glad that we were able to help some of the citizens, but overall, I was very thrilled to see everybody come together so that all this stuff that we've been working on for, I think, almost 2 years now, from the time of writing the plan to exercising to now actually having a real activation, it came together really well.
As a resident of Cabarrus County, it put me at ease to see these folks who really, truly know what they're doing and really care about our community.
So, Jonathan Weaver, thank you so much for putting that together. Everyone that helped during this winter storm, your services are invaluable, and I know that I can speak for the rest of the commissioners when I say that we thank you so much for everything that you did. Gentlemen, did you have anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I'm glad we had that caliber of people working for us. I want to thank Shelley for calling, checking on me, the old guy in the group. And I was okay, but I appreciate her checking on me. Getting out of my driveway was my biggest problem, So I do appreciate it. And I don't know how many of us were praying. I know I was. And I begged the Lord not to let it be as much freezing rain as we expected. And I guess some other people said the same thing, because I know he listens to more than just me. But I'm very grateful that it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
I agree, and I said the same thing, that I'm not going to complain at all that it didn't get as bad as they expected. I'm just going to thank you, Jesus, for listening to all of our prayers, for sure. All right. I just need a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.